So how ubiquitous is this spiritual warfare? I am wondering how to find the balance between a heightened awareness of the ways in which damage can be done in the world and the ways in which warfare can look, to feel equipped to live in that world versus, not getting lost in the past. Some of my experience around, say, evangelical Christian types is that they walk through the world with this energy of paranoia and this energy of persecution, this energy that, the battle is ongoing, it is fraught, it is, evil lurks in every crack and hole. And it's like, it sucks the joy out of life, and it seems to make them very paranoid and self-righteous people. So I'm wondering where the balance is, and of course you probably say discernment.
You're answering your own question.
Between, acknowledging the reality of something that's quite serious and taking up vocations and callings that are meant for us, versus getting lost in, becoming potentially subject to the trauma of being a warrior who never gets to rest. I'm not sure. I don't know if that was clear or not, but
So you're wondering how realistic the woe is me, the whole thing's supposed to be really hard perspective is?
well, not so much woe is me, but it's like gird your loins because every day is a battle, and that's Satan. He's kind of like he looks to be on the winning side right now, and so you got to kind of up your battle skills and get out there.
When it comes to choosing passages from the Bible, one of the reasons I try and stray away from the New Testament is because the whole thing is about like you are supposed to be suffering. The whole thing is hard. It's Eeyore talking. The epistles are written by Eeyore. Like, sorry, Paul and Peter and even John a little bit, but that's kind of the story. And one of the reasons for that is context. So they were imprisoned, they were being persecuted. And so they're speaking to a church that is being persecuted. But the thing is that the Bible was canonized while that was still happening, long before Christianity became the dominant religion in the world. And the majority of political parties and the way that the society, first world society, is governed is based on a Christian platform. That happened centuries after the Bible was canonized. There was never content written, and there isn't content written in the Bible from the perspective of, hey, we actually took top dog position. And so there isn't a lot of content for that to be shown of what that contrast looks like. So what ends up happening is the content that's available to people is about struggle, but people do struggle on a regular basis. They struggle with mundane tasks throughout the day. They struggle with getting out of bed because we're lazy as humans. We struggle with nipping our fingers, we're cutting our vegetables. We struggle with trying to get our car started. We struggle with, but humans in general are very much negative creatures. There are a few creatures that remember how to play and how to have that childlike wonder and child's eyes that David had. But that is the anomaly, that is not the majority. And so people make mountains out of molehills as a species. And so they lean really heavy on those passages that speak to that part. And for people who don't, no, I'm not saying this exclusively, but for people who don't really take a responsibility with upgrading their life, they will use those passages to excuse the fact that they are meant to suffer, and therefore they need to just endure this instead of actually doing something about it. Now, that being said, that is not exclusive. There are also people who genuinely are suffering. There's a legitimate thing happening there. And so it's not just laziness that has people in those situations. But humans are designed to evolve. We're designed to seek our boundaries and push them. So we're always pushing up against something, but because we can't see ourselves in the story and we can't see where we are on the map, we don't realize that we're pushing up against something, but that something isn't in the same place it was before, and it's not even the same something that it was before. And so we can conquer something, and we don't even give ourselves that moment to have a win and celebrate it. We just immediately keep pushing until we hit something else, and we just keep pushing and keep pushing those boundaries. And we do that so that we can evolve. We do that so that we can be galvanized. We do that so that we can become strong creatures. But we forget to actually assess where we are and how much progress we've made, and we don't give ourselves a win. And so from the first person perspective, what we see is that we're always pushing up against something, or we're always attacking something, or we're always being attacked, or something always went bad. But like, some amazing things can happen in people's lives, and you've seen it. Amazing things can happen in people's lives, and it's barely a footnote when they tell you what's happened since last time they saw you. They only tell you about things, because that's the things that we need to feel comforted in. And so that's the thing that we want someone to show up in. So when we go to tell them their story, that's usually the whole story we tell. And so for whatever reason, our culture has shaped a perspective of focus on the negative, focus on the difficult. But it's not the only option. There are some people who see the delight and wonder and only that, and the trials are just footnotes because they don't have a lot of real estate. And it's like, oh, that sucks, off we go. And so it's like, that's one of the things that a lot of people thought I was a creature of a totally different species, because I'm just like, oh, that was me, off we go. And they're like, oh my God, that would have been like life ending to someone else. I'm like, yeah, but so many cool things happen today. Want to know about them? And so I always have this focus on the like delighting in what's happened. And for me, the way that I'm designed, when something difficult happens, it's an exciting challenge for me to figure out or deal with or play with, because I'm just designed to see everything as playful and delightful, and I play with my reality. And so when something that is overwhelming to most people happens, I just go, well, this is gonna be fun. And I get this like really weird pleasure out of it. But some people thought that was because maybe I wasn't human, but maybe it's because I'm autistic and my brain just works differently, or maybe it's just because I don't see life as difficult. Crap happens in it, but the majority of life is either mundane or got a goal. So it's all about how your wiring works and how your focus works. That's why there's so many modern teachings, new age teachings about like gratitude practices and focusing on the positive, and like law of attraction. When you put your mind on, you get more of, and it's because it sets your filter.
Mhm.
It's not just because when you focus on only that thing's going to come to you. It's because you're actually going to notice when that thing comes to you because you're looking for it. Whereas when you're not looking for it, a ton of things can happen to you. And we see this all the time. People asking about romance. Like, when's my perfect partner going to come? It's like 13 people just walked by who were great for you. What are you talking about? And well, wasn't that one thing? It's like, how do you know? You didn't even look. Because you have this fantasy in your head that it's going to look exactly like that. So when it shows up and it looks a little more real than that, you reject it. And so you slap away the gifts in your life instead of going, oh, let's see, how does this work out for me? And so humans just it's our culture that does it. And many of the cultures around the world are doing the same thing, or have been for millennia, so it becomes the standard. But we are just negative-based creatures. And I don't think that's natural. We do that because we're always looking to be creative and innovative, and we are very competitive by nature. And so competition means I need to win out. And so we see everything as for and against. And unless you are absolutely at the top of winning, you tend to see the against part. You tend to see the struggle because you're always looking for the challenge instead of always looking for the adaptation that happened as a result of the challenge. So it's all about what do you put your focus on, and you relay your story in reference to that focus. And so for people who are looking for those passages, or looking to excuse the difficult things in their lives, or looking to support the difficult things in their lives, they will focus on passages that do say that. And people who are looking to delight in life and see joy and see that pleasure and see those parts of it, they'll lean heavier and notice those passages. And so that's the challenge in the Job week, where when we when we shift our focus to a different character, how different is the story when you read it? And you can do the same thing, pick a chapter of the Bible and read it with one mindset, and then you shift your focus, I'm looking for something else, and read it. If you read the same passage when you're in a different emotional experience, you're going to see entirely different things. And so the filter through which we read makes a huge difference. So part of Bible study is use your filter to find what you need, because you will only see what's relevant to it, but also learn to step out of any filter at all and come at it completely clean and see what reveals itself, because then maybe that will invite you into a different emotional experience and teach you a different filter. And that's usually when people will have experiences where the word speaks to them and totally shifts their reality, because it popped out, it caught their attention, and they entered into what it was doing instead of came at it with what they were already experiencing and only saw it in the context of their personal experience. And so how we engage with the word and how we engage with our reality dramatically shifts if we see ourselves as the host and origin or as the respondent. So is it meant to be totally difficult all of the time? No, it's not. Are we constantly being tested to make sure that we become the best possible versions of ourselves? Yeah, but what does that testing look like? If we are very subtle and very receptive to our reality, those tests don't have to be dramatic. They don't have to stop us in our tracks. They don't have to break our legs or kill our families like Job. Very simple invitations can be enough to take us in. Whereas when we're less subtle and we're more self-involved, we don't pick up those invitations, so they need to get louder. They need to get louder. And especially if you have a paradigm or belief system that you only learn through trauma and drama, then you're only going to learn anything through traumatic and dramatic experiences. Whereas if you have a belief system and a paradigm that you learn through play and exploration, then you'll see those invitations much more readily. And that's where in the course about like the languages of learning, I go through the 12 different ways that people actually learn things. And most people are working in a mode that actually isn't natural for them to receive information. That's why they don't learn anything. And as you go through those 12 different ways to learn, okay, what is my natural mechanism and what is my coping mechanism? How am I navigating reality out of alignment with how I was designed to? When you start to look at those options, you go, oh, that makes way more sense. Yeah, in those experiences, I got way more out of it. And this just seems hard. So, and for some people, play is hard. They don't even know how to enter into it. So as much as it sounds like a delightful thing, it's not something they can do. And so when we start to explore our reality and learn how it is that we work, we become an active participant in our reality, and we become a co-creator in our reality. But it always starts by us being receptive to the conversation, then engaging with the conversation, and then a participant contributing to the conversation. But there's a lot of personal responsibility that happens from point A to point B.
For more on this topic and other content that's like it, like, subscribe, follow, and then head over to our homepage at strixrun.com or our content page to see other programs with content like this and also that's nothing like this. All right, follow us over and I'll see you there.